It's finally time for the Crosshair 6 Extreme review. Do you want to say box opening? I'd prefer to say we're going to have a good, decent look about what it comes with. Because let's face it, if you're going to pay this amount of money, you want to know about the Gucci stuff that you get in the box. Gucci, yes, I did say Gucci. Anyway, so sticker, pack, they've put those in all of the boards now. You get your a coaster. You get some stickers, a driver CD. They started doing driver USB sticks and I was so happy about it. So this, I think it was the Maximus 9 Extreme, had a driver's USB stick. So to go back to the CDs a bit backwards, I think. But anyway, if you do buy the board, go and download the latest drivers from the Asus website because they change all the time. And then you get some stickers so you can mark your cables so you know what they are. And then there's also a code for a cable mod set of cables, and I always show you the codes on these so that you can give them away. Someone said the other day that they don't work in the UK shop. You can go to the worldwide shop and they'll still post to the UK anyway. So anyway, if you do use this code, please tweet me or post on the OC3D forums or something. But there you go, there's your code. You can get 20% off on me, or thanks to Asus and Cable Mod. Anyway, when we pop open the rest of the box, you get your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antenna. You do get the add-on card for the fans. We always do mention the header that's on the motherboard, and with some boards you have to pay extra for this card, but you do get it with this, and it's just so that you get more fan headers, and there's a special header on the board for it. There's a couple of thermal probes, so you can set up your own thermal probes. Actually there's 3, there's another one there. That's the wire for the fan add-on thingy that I told you about. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 SATA cables. You get a couple of extension cables for the RGB. You get one for normal 4-pin RGB, and then there's another one for the addressable RGB as well. In case you're wondering about addressable RGB, you can get them from Cable Mod, but there's a lovely badge. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest fan of like case badges and stuff, despite the fact that I do actually have the original ROG magnets. I think they were the last like really great case badges. This one is sadly a sticker rather than being a magnet. Maybe it's because more of us have got glass and stuff now, like glass outside of our cases, aluminium cases. But I really like that badge. I really do like that badge. In fact, oh, it's gone. Yeah, magician. Look, Stephen Levitt would be proud of me. Look, watch. It's gone. It's disappeared. It's not in the box. Right. So I need to put all this back tidily because I still haven't taken photos, because this is literally our first look. Okay. So first things first. Draw your attention to this extra width, because that is basically that bit down there, that extra bit of girth. That's what she said makes all the difference, and that's what makes it E-ATX. Now, a lot of people come to me and they say to me about, will such and such a motherboard fit in this case, because it doesn't list E-ATX. And there's a really easy way that you can kind of work it out for yourself, rather than expecting people like me to go and look at pictures, when you can, it's all, basically, you can do it just as easy as I can. You can go and have a look at a picture of where your motherboard would bolt in on your case. And if you've got a grommet that would go down the side of the outside of the board, all that's going to happen is this board will hang over your grommets a little bit. The only time that you need to worry about E-ATX boards not fitting is some of the Corsair cases used to have like a ridge that came down, and the motherboard almost sat in a recess. So as long as you've not got that kind of ridge, I think it was like it was one of the cheaper cases that they did, and basically the extra width would have sat on the bit of metal, which would have come out of the side of the motherboard, and that's the only bit that you need to worry about. So as long as you've got the width and there's nothing going to be obstructing about 25 centimeters from the actual screw point, that's how you can tell whether it will fit or not. So most cases, surprisingly, will fit E80X, even though they might not have it listed. Sometimes you need to get a little bit more creative with the way that you put your 24-pin cable in and round or something. But if you're okay with being able to kind of think on your feet and look for other possible options and that sort of stuff, in the clever with your cable routing and all that sort of stuff, or you're not afraid to drill a hole or something, then you don't need to worry too much. But I think if you spent this much money on a board, you might not be looking for something really, really compact. Anyway, so we will work our way around. So at the top of the board you have an 8-pin and a 4-pin power. When we come across the top here, you can see that you've got your first RGB header. I'm going to zoom this in so that we can see better. There we go. So RGB header. This WB sensor, water block sensor, it's basically ASUS have made this kind of open source now, and the Bits Power are going to be producing a full cover block that will plug into this, so that you can do flow testing and leak testing, leak sensor and all that sort of stuff. But that you might find that like EK and stuff will make blocks as well. So essentially it's got the sensor there that you can just plug those aftermarket blocks into. So this is actually quite cool, and let's face it, there's quite a few phases and stuff around there, and they would have designed the socket and around the board in a way that it will mean that it's easier to water cool as well. So this is all very cool and positive stuff. So then you've got CPU and CPU optional here. So you've got those two headers, but then you've also got 4 dedicated headers up here, and they call them RAD headers because they're assuming that you're going to plug them into a radiator for water cooling. I would be of the position that if it was me, I probably would have just wired literally like PWM extensions or a PWM hub into something like this, and then had the fans all the way around the back rather than having loads of case fans or cooling fans coming into this, because it's just going to end up adding kind of mess around the board. So I would probably do it a different way rather than plugging all my fans into these, but it's all down to you. You've then got a start and a reset switch here. There are some start and a reset switch. There's some pinouts here so that you can use your multimeter to get very accurate ways of seeing what things are doing. You've got 1.8 PLL, VDDP, RAM, NB, SOC, VCore. That's a ground one there. So you've got a few pinouts there so you can test those. Then we've got LN2 mode there, and then a slow mode button. You've got a retry button. I'm just trying to, and this is safe boot. Sorry, I was watching what I was doing here and not showing you. So you've got retry button. Retry is cool. So sometimes when you're posting and you're turning the rig on, it doesn't post, it doesn't do anything. Rather than hitting reset or hard pressing on the power button, you can do this, and then you don't get those annoying Windows 10, failed boot problems. Do you want to restart your system? Do you want to see about your startup options? It stops all of that, and it just kind of bypasses it, and it's almost like a clean reset. I do wish that they had a button that went straight to BIOS. I've only seen it on a very few boards, and I would genuinely love it. Nice. Horizontal rather than vertical 24-pin. You did also see some really cool lights around the side there then, but we'll talk about those in a minute. So we've got USB 3.1 for your the cases when they finally do start to support it. Got horizontal USB 3, 8 SATAs down the side. This is the external fan. I showed you the little PCB just a minute ago. That's where the cable goes for it, and then you've also got a fan header here. I'm trying to look. Oh, this is a water pump. There you go. I'm not got even shot again. It's a water pump header. There you go. You've also got a water flow header here, but you can also plug in you've got water in and out, and then you've also got a water flow one here, so you can plug your pumps in and you can monitor the flow. These little water cooling sections are actually brilliant, but you've also got another 4 radiator headers down the bottom, radiator fan headers down the bottom, I should say. Then you've got USB 3 at the bottom. Then we've got ROG external or a ROG extension or a ROG header. One thing to remember with these ROG headers though is this here, this half of it, that's actually a USB 2 header. If you need it. If you do need internal USB 2, you can get a cable on eBay for about £1 that will split a USB 3 into 2 USB 2s, and you can just put it around the back so you can plug your AIO if you use it. or a power supply into it, or you can use this as the header for your hub. There's also here another RGB header, but this is your addressable header, so you can get the ones where they dance, or you know, they're kind of active. And like I said, Cable Mod are doing these. I will show you this attached later on in the video, just so you know. Then we've also got the Supreme Effects down the side with your Japanese capacitors there. There is another fan header hidden up here. Chassis fan 1, or chassis, because people keep giving me grief for saying it wrong, even though I say it the British way. Anyway, round the back, it's nice to see, like the original Crosshair Hero, that there is a lot of USB around the back. You've got BIOS flashback and CMOS clear. You've got your Wi-Fi up here, 4 USB 3s, and you've got USB 2 here, including a BIOS flashback header and the Keybot header. If you don't know about Keybot, you can basically plug any keyboard into this, and you can actually address some of the F keys and stuff to do almost any task. So it's almost like giving you a macro or media keys and all that kind of stuff, and it will do it with any keyboard. So this can be cool if you've not got a really expensive keyboard. And then you've got USB type C and A over here. You've got your audio, gigabit Ethernet. It's all kind of nice. But the most important thing to point out here is you've got your I/O shield built into the board, so you don't have to fit one in the back of the case. So there's an awful lot going on, but without kicking the tripod. Also, when we come around the back, you can see that there is a kind of a half a shield. You know, it's a bit of support, but it's mainly because there are RGBs down the back. Now, the last time I saw this was on the Rampage 5 Extreme Edition 10 limited edition. So these are all RGBs that you can address as well. So it can be a really nice bit of lighting. I know a lot of people don't like RGBs, but you can obviously turn them off. So we do have an M.2 port down here, which goes up to 80mm. But underneath the heatsink, there is another hidden one. So there are RGBs underneath here that will light up the logo. It's all kind of two-way mirror type of effect, but because of the thermal pad on this, it will mean that this M.2 up here will actually get some cooling from it, but where it is quite a way away from any like possible heat that you're going to be getting from graphics cards and stuff, it could actually be quite good. And it's quite a bit of material as well. It's quite a thick piece of alley, but it does fit all in with the theme and everything really nicely, I think. So there's a pretty good look around the board. There's certainly a lot about it. Right then, my lovely peoples, so a quick look at the LEDs, now the RGBs, you know what I'm on about. So the main thing is you can see the lights down the outside of the motherboard, down by the 24 pin that I showed you before. The memory is the G.Skill Ripjaw Z, the RGB stuff. I still say, as far as RGB is concerned, that's the best implementation of it I've ever seen. But the other things that we can point out while we're here, you can see that we've got a bit up here, up by the I/O shield. The two main graphics card PCI Express slots have an RGB on the end. I know we've kind of covered one up here, but you can just see the light glow there. We've also got one down at the bottom on the chipset. Thank Lord, because when it comes to a lot of these boards, they seem to leave it off. But what we've also got is an RGB strip. I'm just plugging it in. Okay, so with the cable finally plugged in, what we can show you is there is a new RGB header on the board. You still get the normal 4-pin 12-volt RGB white header at the bottom and at the top of the board, as I've already shown you, but there's a new 3-pin one, which is an addressable RGB. So rather than all of the RGBs changing colour or fading at the same time, what you can now do is address each individual one. Now, there are some cool options in the Aura software, and I do know a lot of people moan about me talking about the RGBs, but a lot of people do like and think these are quite cool. But anyway, you can get the Cable Mod kits, and like I said, they are the fully addressable kits. They come in 30 centimeters and 60 centimeters, but you can do some really funky stuff with them, and I'm just going to show you some just quickly so that you can get the idea. But it's just some really, if you have a look, you can see them getting brighter and flashing, and we'll have this one green. And anyway, you can set these up in your own system so that you can make them do whatever you want, whatever works for you. Spin this around to blue. Anyway, like I said, you can have them set up to do whatever you like and whatever's best for you, the colour that you want in your system. One of the things I would say with RGB though is it's actually kind of nice to have a black system and then use the lights to put the colour in the rig. As you can, obviously this GTX logo kind of ruins it at the moment, but you get the point that I'm trying to make. Okay, so on to the interesting bit maybe, performance. Well, first of all, I do want to remind you what I have said to you about the fact that there will be third-party water blocks available. There's 4 cover blocks, so it will cool the CPU and it will cool the MOSFETs around it. Not necessarily that I'm saying that the MOSFETs need cooling by a water block, but you know, the point is there, and you have that dedicated header out for it. So no, Bits Power are going to be making one. I'm pretty sure EK will follow suit as well to bring something out for this. And the reason why I tell you is I think with my CPU, what was really stopping me in the end was temperatures. Now I have got a 280mm H110 IGT, which when we were doing the overclocks, we were running it with 100% fans. But the thing is once Ryzen, as long as you don't think about the offset, and the offset has been removed because they can artificially look 20 degrees hotter than they actually are. With this, without the offset, once you push past about 75 degrees, they can get a bit shaky. And I've never actually seen my CPU go really much above 80 degrees without actually falling over. So with that water block, it might have helped me, have brought the temperatures down that little bit more. But I did manage to get 4.15 gigahertz out of it, which is the most I've got out of any of the boards that I've been able to play with so far. And we were also able to get 4.1 gigahertz absolutely bench stable across every benchmark as well, which is a first. So the fact that we've managed to do this, and I genuinely think I probably could have pushed a bit further with water on it, is kind of testament for the board. Because if I'm honest, when I first did see it and it turned up, I was mainly hoping it was going to be as good as the original Crosshair 6 Hero. I did play around with the base clock a little bit on it, but I didn't centre my my review on it as much as I did last time. Mainly because when we did it last time, we were trying to use the base clock so that we could push past the 3200 megahertz limit that we had on the memory, just to see if the CPUs were able to go that little bit further with memory. But we don't have to do that anymore because of all the Agisa updates. There's many more memory options in there available to us. Now, we ended up stopping at 3333 for our memory with the 4.1 gigahertz overclock for the results that are in the graph. The Crosshair 6 would have been done slightly different, where we used a little bit of base clock in there as well to kind of mix it up. But we've kind of centered this around like the basic way of overclocking, but then you can still play with it and play around with those different parts to speed your memory up a little bit more and have a slightly higher base clock. Some programs like a little bit of higher base clock, some actually dislike it and would prefer just another multiplier notch instead. So it's one of those ones where you have to kind of test both sorts of side of the fence to see which one favours the benchmarks that you guys might be using at home. But so we got a really good, amazing overclock out of it. If I'm honest, it genuinely did surprise me because it was. It didn't seem to take as much time to do it than we did with the Crosshair 6, but that's probably actually down to the fact that I've been using it more often and I'm more familiar with it. But the results really, when they did come out, they come through thick and strong as well. So IDA 64, for example, we've been using IDA. Honestly, this graph would be 3 miles long if we showed you everything, but it topped the graph. 3D Mark, weirdly, and I've left this in to kind of throw a bit of a curveball in there to show you that it's, you know, it can be a bit different. It didn't top the graph on this one, but not by a great deal. And it's the weird thing about it is this would have had a higher overclock. So this could actually be down to maybe the graphics card driver on this one's not necessarily as good as the last one. It's just one of those weird things that you get with reviewing sometimes, but it's one of the reasons why we do look at stuff over and over again. PC Mark 7 absolutely spanked to the top of the graph. Look at that computation result at the top of the graph. It's miles out there in front of the rest. And then the X265 benchmark, as you can see, absolutely smashed the top of that graph with that one as well. So it is a board that you do need to overclock. Don't just buy it and run it as stock. You are completely missing the point. But the long and short of it is people are going to be saying to me, is it worth it over the Crosshair 6? Now the thing is it is a Crosshair 6 with more icing and cherries and like decoration on the top of it. So if you're looking for a board that is just going to give you performance and you want to look between the Extreme and the Hero, I'd probably say just go with the Hero. But if you're looking for a board with all the bells and whistles on it and all of those extra little funky things, and it is just more EPing, because it in the end it does cost a lot more, in the fact that, are you going to want to pay that for a M.2 cooler? I'd probably say not. Are you going to want to pay that extra money for the fact that it's now got a different RGB header? I'd probably say not. But when you nail in all of the extra stuff, the flat 24 pin, which they should put on every board now, the fact that you've got that water block add-on at the top, you've got the water cooling section down the bottom, all those extra fan headers, if that's the type of thing that you're looking for, then yes, that's the board. This is the board that you're going to want to get. But the most important thing, and I think this is the reason why they've done it, is you need to give them props for the fact that it even exists. Yes, it's expensive, and yes, it's not for everyone. But the point is that they have produced it for the Ryzen platform. And I have to say that when Ryzen first launched, this wasn't, 100% this was ever going to be released. So if you are a Ryzen fan, even if it's out of your price range, you do need to really give them a tip of the cap for even bringing this to the market. Because let's face it, normally with Ryzen stuff, it's all about bang for buck. And when you bring such an expensive board like this to the market, it really is a proper, it's almost like a Goldilocks product. Yes, it's there, and yes, you can get it if you want, and you're happy with the fact that there isn't, you've now got the Crosshair Extreme, because there's going to be a new Rampage Extreme, so it's kind of fair. But also what this ends up doing, by being so expensive and being right up there at the top of the pack, it weirdly makes the ones slightly lower down look a little bit more accessible and more like they might be worth, grabbing hold of as well. So there's that weird kind of mind games thing going on. But props to them for even doing it. So at the end of the day, it's like the Maximus, is it Maximus 9 Extreme? It's the Maximus 9 Extreme, but with an AM4 socket kind of nailed on it, and without the water block. But the water block will then come later. Now, a lot of people will say, why didn't it come with the water block out of the box? Well, the problem with the Maximus 9 Extreme with the water block, it meant it was only water cooling, because there were no heat sinks for that board without that water block fitted on it. So with this, what they've done, and I think it's kind of the right way round, is they've made this one for air, but they've made sure there are going to be full cover water blocks that you're going to be able to easily buy, and it's all going to be supported by Asus, and they've worked with them on the little pin outs and all that sort of stuff. So that is also kind of cool as well. I think it's definitely the right way round on this one. So props to them for even doing it. Let's face it, if you've got a Ryzen rig and you end up buying this, you are going to be wanting to tweak and play and mess around, or just build the best Ryzen rig that you possibly can do. So it is an OC3D Enthusiast Award winner, because if you did want to spend this much money on your Ryzen rig, you are either using your mum and dad's credit card, you've just got divorced and you've had your mortgage payout, or you're an enthusiast. So that's why it gets the Enthusiast Award. I've actually really liked playing with it. If I can get one of the water blocks, then I will come back to it and have a little bit of a play as well, although we won't get like the full-blown meaty review, because we're just going to be looking at temps and how the software and stuff works, as in the way that when the water block goes in, how that interacts with the Asus software. But yeah, I really liked it. Did you really like it? Is this the board you've been waiting for? But if not, even if you don't want to get it, Ryzen boys, you finally got your Crosshair Extreme. And because of that, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Well, yeah, can we say that it won the Enthusiast Award again? Yeah, maybe, possibly, yeah. Let's do that. Bye.